Yo, what's up everyone? It's your favorite narrator, Aaron, back at it with another story. Today's story is going to be a little bit shorter. I'm sorry to do that to you, but I just had some gum surgery and I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. But I'm on that grind for y'all, so I gotta do what I gotta do. Grab a snack, kick back, and let's dive in. So this story happens last year. I used to drive this car from 2012. It was a Mazda 3. It was a great car. Being 2012, it was a little bit older, so I always had to do a little bit of maintenance on it, and up till at that point, it had been needing a little bit of coolant every once in a while. I dealt with that problem for way too long, and finally, after like 6 months, I ended up getting it fixed, and it ended up being that the coolant reservoir overflow tank had a hole in it where the bottom of it was rubbing up against a hose. But anyhow, that's besides the point. This is back when I was still thinking that, you know what, I'm just going to deal with this issue. It's not leaking too bad. It ended up getting a lot worse. I was going through about a gallon a week or so. So on this particular day, me and the girlfriend are about to be going back down to her place. And she lives a few hours away, so I know I gotta top off the coolant, make sure we're not gonna get straight on the side of the road. That just ain't a good look for me, and that's definitely not good for her either. So I open the trunk, I grab the gallon of coolant, pop the hood, get that open, and I unscrew the cap to get to the coolant overflow tank. I grab the funnel and fill it up, top it off, and it's good to go. So I grab the funnel and I top off the coolant, and for some reason I just forget to put the cap back on the coolant. I just leave it there in the engine bay and I close the hood. So me and my girlfriend, we get on the road, we start going down the interstate, about 45 minutes to an hour down the interstate. I get a call from my dad. I pull over, pick up, and he says, "Hey, did you happen to leave a cap here in the driveway?" And I said, "No, I mean, I don't think so. I just refilled the coolant, but I mean, of course I screwed that cap back on." Now, he's not the best with cars, but he said, "Yeah, I mean, there's a symbol on here that," he said, "I think it's the water coolant symbol." And at this point, I can't say I'm much better at cars if I forgot the cap. So since I was pulled over, I thought, you know what, fuck it, alright, I'll just go take a look. We're pulled over on the side of the highway. I popped the hood, and sure enough, that cap is missing. Now, the reservoir looked full, but one thing you gotta know about cars is that, especially the coolant system, when it heats up, it's gonna make it look like it's more full than it is because it's expanding, you know, it looks like there's more coolant in there than there is because it's warmed up. So I knew it was probably low, and I mean, we'd made it an hour down the interstate already, and I'm thinking, well, there's obviously still coolant in there, but we gotta put a cap on this because it has to build compression and whatnot. It's a pressurized system after all. So my quick thinking girlfriend said, "Hey, I mean, you have your medical bag in the back. I always keep a medical bag in the back of my car in case I come across a crash or something like that where you need some medical supplies." I'd recommend that for any of y'all out there. If you're a driver, even if you're a passenger, just keep some medical supplies in your car. I'm a little bit extra. I have a lot of stuff in my medical bag being an EMT, and I like that kind of thing, but you don't need that much, but definitely just keep some basics at least. So we start rummaging through my bed bag and we came across some chest seals. So if you don't know what a chest seal is, it's an occlusive dressing that usually you put on somebody's chest if they have a second chest wound, like if they've been shot, if they've had a traumatic injury to the chest. You put this dressing on, and it bleeds out the air that's stuck in their chest and then keeps air from getting back in their chest. And the way they usually work is that you clean off somebody's chest and you stick the pad on and it just like sticks there. So we thought, hey, you know what? It's kind of like rubber, plasticky, you know, I feel like it could withstand some heat. So we thought, hey, why not? Let's chuck that on for now. So there we are on the side of the highway, chucking a chest seal over the coolant reservoir overflow tank. That was definitely not on my bucket list for that day. And like I said, we only had an hour down, and it's a few hours to her place. We still had a couple hours to go. Long story short, we make it down the rest of the way. I checked on it every now and again. If I had to stop for gas or stop for a bite to eat, I checked on it and it was perfectly fine. Spent some time with the girlfriend, spent a few hours driving back up north, and believe it or not, that chest seal stayed on the whole time. If you do the math, that's 5 hours that it was sitting on top of that coolant reservoir overflow tank at operating temperature on my Mazda. So I mean, that was withstanding a lot of pressure, and it stayed there. It did not come off. Got back home, chucked on the real cap after taking off the chest seal, And haven't done that again, but I made sure to always keep a couple chest seals in the car just in case, because you never know if you're gonna have to come up with some kind of roadside fix like that. On the same note of roadside fixes, me and my girlfriend were in Maine just a few months ago, and that same Mazda, it's a 2012, and living in the northeast of the US, there's a lot of snow and people put salt down on the road, so your cars get really rusty. We were driving up this hill in Ogunquit, I think, or near Ogunquit, Maine. It's the real touristy part of the southern part of the state. We were driving up this hill and I had to give it a little bit of gas. It sounded, the exhaust just went from like a normal sound to like wicked loud. And I knew right then that, oh man, we lost some part of the exhaust. I used to drive an '05 Prius and I dropped the muffler on that rig on the interstate one time, so I recognized the sound. So we pull over into the gas station and it wasn't the muffler that dropped. The exhaust pipe had rusted through right before the resonator. So it sounded like when all the wannabe race car kids back in high school thought it was cool to put the fart can on the back of their exhaust. It sounded just like that. Had to spend a few hours in O'Reilly's parking lot, bought a jack and a couple jack stands, chucked it up on stands, and then bought a U-bolt and some metal sheeting, or 2 U-bolts and some metal sheeting, and was able to secure the metal sheeting around the brake and the exhaust with the U-bolts and an impact. But when we got back to her place from Maine, her dad had said, hey, if you ever come into something like that, you can always keep a couple of soda cans on hand to use that metal, as well as the U-bolts, keeping those in your trunk. So the moral of the story is, as well as keeping chest seals, always make sure to keep some extra cans and U-bolts and an impact in the back of your car, because you never know what you might need. All jokes aside, it's definitely better to keep prepared when you're on the road, because you have no idea what kind of trouble or what you might come across when you're driving around. You never know what you might need. It does get a little awkward though if, like me, you have a job where sometimes your car gets searched when you're coming on site. They'll take a look in the trunk and you'll have a med bag with a bunch of random shit in it. Then you have a crate with fucking cans and fucking U-bolts and blue rags and extra coolant and extra oil, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing with all this shit, man? And you're just like, oh, I got a 13-year-old car, you gotta do what you gotta do. Love that rig though. Had to let it go recently and it's heartbreaking. I always like driving the older cars instead of the newer ones, People driving around their new cars are always afraid to like really push it too much, or if they get a little scratch or a bump on it, they're like, oh fuck, it's the end of the world. But when you have a fucking 13-year-old car, you're like, who the hell cares? There's already scratches and bumps and dents on it. One more isn't going to hurt anything. Obviously you're not trying to, but in a pinch when you have to do those real quick fixes, it's not the end of the world. Do just make sure if you do any exhaust work to finish your ride with the windows down, because you don't know where that leak could be coming from, or if there's another leak somewhere and you don't want the cab filling up with exhaust. So keep your windows down. Anyway, that'll do it for today's video. I know it was a bit of a shorter one, but like I was saying, I just had my gum surgery and my mouth's not feeling that great. So if I'm sounding a little bit different, that's why. I'll be back next week, hopefully with a little bit more energy. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, remember to press the like button, comment on a story of your own from this week that stuck out to you, and subscribe to the channel. We're out here posting every week. If you want to listen without the video while you're doing chores or driving to work, these stories go up on Spotify under Story Snaps with Arrow. Remember guys, life is a story and you are the author. I'll catch you later.